aspect of bridge. The better you and your partner are able to communicate, the more effective and successful you're going to be. Okay? You and your partner need to be on the same page. You need to make decisions between the two of you how you're going to play. All right, so you're probably playing, most of you with the same partner. It's not absolutely necessary that you do in this class, but if you do, that's fine. You can start building a relationship with that person. All right, the partnership, through a series of bids, tries to arrive at a contract. It's an auction that proceeds, as I'm sure you all know, clockwise until there's 3 consecutive passes. At that point, whatever the final bid is the contract. Okay? So, once again, this is probably very basic, but I just want to make sure we're all very clear with this. All right? The suits are clubs, diamonds, hearts, spades. In ascending order, clubs are the lowest ranking, diamonds, hearts, spades. And then, no trump where there is no trump. Okay, everyone understands the difference between trump and no trump. Is that correct? Anyone not know that? All right. The clubs, when you play them, you bid anywhere, or any of the suits, you bid from 1 to 7. The first 6 tricks are called the book. So when you bid 1 club, you're saying, I'm going to take 6 plus 1 trick with clubs as trumps. If you bid 4 hearts, what would be the trump suit? And how many tricks would you have to take? 10. Okay. If you bid 3 no trump, what's the strength?
No trump.
No trump. 9. And you have to take 9 tricks. So everybody is very comfortable with that, correct? Okay. Then the value of the tricks, clubs and diamonds, are worth 20 points per trick. Hearts and spades are worth 30. No trump, the first trick is worth 40, and the others are worth 30. Okay, now this is going to be important when you start talking about bidding, games, or card scores, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. Okay. Real briefly, I want to talk about hand evaluation. Most of you are probably familiar with this as well. You have to evaluate your hand because you have to determine, is it worth a lot? Can I make a lot of tricks? Can I win tricks with this hand? So obviously, if you have a lot of high cards, you're probably going to win tricks with the high cards, right? That's pretty obvious. So high cards are worth more points when you value your hand for the purpose of bidding. So very quickly, an ace is worth 4 points for the purpose of evaluating your hand. A king 3, a queen 2, a jack 1. Those are high card points. When you're in no trump, you only count high card points. If you're in a suit contract, you also can count points for distribution. And the way we do it is the 5th card in any suit is worth 1 additional point. Any subsequent card after that is worth an additional 1 point. All right? Everybody understand that? All right, so we're going to evaluate some hands here, all right, using what we just went over. All right, so how many high card points are in this hand? Anybody?
12.
You got ace, king, queen, that's 9. 12. How many distribution points do you have?
3.
2.
You got 1, 2, right? Okay, so you have 14 total points in this hand. So in evaluating that hand, you'd say, okay, that hand's worth 14 points. Does everyone see that? Anyone not see that? Okay, how about this hand? How many points do you have here? How many high card points?
8.
6, 7, 8, okay. How many distribution points? 1. This hand is worth how many points? 9, okay. This one. How many high card points?
19.
It's 19. 6, 7, 10, 17, 19. Everybody see that? How many distribution points? None. Okay, so you're pretty comfortable with how to evaluate your hand. Anybody not comfortable or have any questions with that? All right.
Do you do that when you open?
That's how you evaluate your hand when you open.
I didn't know you could use.
Yeah, so this is very important because this determines whether you can open or not. And when you're the responder, it will determine how you respond. So the first thing you need to get very clear in your head is how to evaluate your hand. It's described in the book. If you have any questions, you can read it until you just have it nailed. And that's the first thing you do. You get your cards out of the cases. Everyone's familiar with this. Has everybody played duplicate? Did anyone not play duplicate? Okay, the cards are presented to you like this. You take your hand out, you open it up, you arrange it by suit, and the first thing you do is figure this out. Okay? And you sit there and wait your turn. All right? Now there's another very important component about evaluating your hand and determining what you're going to bid, and that is the shape of your hand, or how the cards are distributed. Basically, we break it into two categories. We have a balanced hand or an unbalanced hand. There are three, and only three types of balanced hands. Okay, let's look at this. These are the 13 cards. These are the three types of balanced hands. 4 in one suit, 3 in the other 3. That's called a 4-3-3-3 distribution. Or it can be 4-4-3-2. Or it can be 5-3-3-2. Okay, what's one thing that you note there? How would you define a balanced hand in one sentence?
No single, then one double.
Not more than one double. Okay, a balanced hand is a hand that has not more than one double. And these are the only three possible combinations that you can have. Okay? So if this hand, if that went away and it went to there, is that a balanced hand? That's an unbalanced hand. Similarly, here, let's see what happens here. Is that a balanced hand?
No.
Yes, it is, right? Okay. If that went there, is it a balanced hand?
Yes.
Okay. If that went there, is that a balanced hand? Two doubles. It's not a balanced hand. So it's very important to understand how to evaluate your hand and how to determine whether it's balanced or unbalanced. Okay? Get some water. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to jump slightly off on a tangent here because I want to show you something that's very important. And I see this with people who are just starting to play bridge a lot. When you actually get to playing the hand, the tendency is to play all your high cards. Oh, I've got an ace, I better play it. I've got a king, I better play that. And you play all the high cards out of your hand first. As a general principle, that is incorrect, unless you can count all your winners. Let me just show you something. Look at this hand right here. One suit, we call it spades, you've got the ace, the 3, and the 2. The hearts, you have the ace, the 3, and the 2. The diamonds, you've got king, queen, jack, 10, 9, 8. Here you've got ace, 3, and 2. How many tricks in no trump should you win with that hand? How many are you expecting to win?
Depends on the lead. Depends on the lead.
Okay, well, what would you lead in?
Oh, you don't lead someone else does.
Let's say you're leading. What would you lead?
Eight,
The king. Who all would lead the
The
king?
king, the top.
I don't see a king.
Yeah. You definitely lead the king, or in this instance, you know, it might be anything, but the king, you lead the top of the sequence. And the reason why is you've got to knock out this card, the ace. It's got to fall. Once that card's gone, all the rest of your diamonds are good. So you're going to win all 5 of those tricks with the ace is gone.
Steve,
Yes.
are there too many cards there? Oh, you got too many.
Right, I'm just showing a concept. So it's not, I got 11 pretty good.
Good
Okay, it's a concept, and not playing the
That's
All right, so the point I'm making, if you play the ace and it's gone, then they can do just the reverse of what you did there. They can run all of those cards, and you may lose some of these. So when you have a hand, this is a very extreme example, you knock out the cards that you need to knock out to make the others good. Then you play your other winners. Don't play your big winners first. That's the way you maximize the number of tricks you can take with any particular hand. Okay?
Are you saying that for no trump or all?
That's no, it's really, it's pretty much anything. In trumps, you generally, once again, you want to pull the trumps so that they can't trump some of your good cards. So assuming you pull trumps, yes, it would be the same in any string.
Why
Yes.
don't you play the fourth and the highest?
Well, that's a little further down the road, and we'll talk about that. The main point I want to make is you don't lead your high cards away from that. Okay? You lead the solid suits to build them up. Okay. Now, let's start talking about bidding. We've talked about hand evaluation and hand shapes. Get a track on my tongue. Okay, so the things you have to decide are what level, how many tricks are we going to bid? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the first thing. So it's always going to be a number between 1 and 7. The highest bid possible is what? 7 no trump. The lowest bid would be 1 trump. So everything else moves up that ladder. Everyone's familiar with the bidding ladder, correct? You know you have to bid a higher number. If you're bidding clubs over spades, you have to go one level higher. Everyone understands that, right? Okay. So when you're trying to reach your contract, when you're having this communication with your partner, you have to decide what level and what else? What strength. You have to decide, are you going to play in a suit contract or in no trump? And the way you do that is you communicate. We're going to do some hands here later, and we're going to do it in like, not bridge bidding way, but just conversation way, by saying things like, partner, I have a lot of spades, I think they should be trumped. And you'll just have a natural conversation. And what we're going to do as we go along is we'll explain how your bids say exactly that. So when you're saying, partner, I have a lot of spades, instead of saying that, you say, 1 spade, or whatever it may be, okay? All right, but first you need to determine how high you want to go, and then you have to determine what strength. Now there's some numbers to remember here. How many total high card points are there in the deck? 40. There's 40, that's correct. There's 4 aces, 4 kings, etc. So there's 40 possible high card points. All right, to make game, you need slightly more than half between you and your partner. So if you have, or if you're able to determine between you and your partner, you have 25 points, you should be able to be in game between the two of you. Now, what's an average hand? If there's 40 points in the deck, what's the average side? 10, right? 10. So most people are going to have 8, 9, 10, 11 points, something like that. So how many points do you need? Your hand's got to be strong to open, because you want to hope that between you and your partner you have 25. So the first bidder has to have an opening hand. Now, how many points does that person need to bid? 12. We're saying 13, but remember you include distributional points. So if you have a hand like this, there's 12 high card points, but you have 2 distributional points, that's 14, that's an opening hand. Now let me just say this, there's various different ways of evaluating. You'll read different books that say A, B, C, D. And you know, as you get more experience, you may vary that slightly, but for now, this is proven, it works, it's solid, and it's consistent. And you and your partner, I believe, should both use this system, at least for now. Okay? So you evaluate your hand. If you have 13 points, you do what? You open. That's right. So what do you open? All right, let's talk about that. If you have less than 13 points, what do you do? You pass. So if I'm the first person and I have 13, if I have 8 points, I'm passing. You're sitting here and you've got 13. You're going to open something, right? All right. So here, how do you determine what to open? Well, let's talk about the one that's the easiest first. Okay. If you have a balanced hand, that's a balanced hand, that's a balanced hand. Okay? If you have a balanced hand and between 15, precisely 15 to 17, not 14 to 18 or 16 or 17, 15 to 17 points, precisely, you open one no trump. Okay, now think, yes.
Isn't that only high card? That's not.
Only high card points.
Right, okay.
Okay, no trump, only high card points and no trump. All right, so think about how clear this is. Your partner opens one no trump, you immediately know what?
You got 15 to 17.
Distribution and point count.
Exactly. 15 to 17 high card points and a balanced hand. Therefore, you know your partner has at least 2 of every suit. The partner cannot have a singleton. Okay? And that'll come into play later on. All right? So this is the most direct opening lead. All right? Now, what if you don't have a balanced hand? What would you open? You want to volunteer something?
Well, it depends on your suits. If you have 3 clubs, if you don't have a 5-card major, either hearts or spades, then you look at your clubs and diamonds. If you had like 3 diamonds and 3 clubs, you did 1
Okay,
club.
I'm going to go over that. Once again, I'm going to be very, very pragmatic and incremental here. I may be saying things that, oh, that's way simple. You know, I knew that 2 years ago. That's great. But what really happens here, if you build level on top of level on top of level on top of level, everything from the ground up becomes more clear. Okay, so 2 other little side notes here. In all of our bidding that we're discussing in this class, we're going to assume that your opponents pass. So it's only you and your partner bidding. There's no interfering bids. And secondly, we're going to not discuss in this particular class hands that have over 22 or more points. Those are very rare. You have in your own hand more than half of the points. And that's an entirely different thing to discuss. We're going to talk about the hands that come up 99.2% of the time. The hands where you may have 0 to 21 points in your hand. Okay, so we talk about a balanced hand with 15 to 17 points. You only open one no trump if it meets both those criteria. All right, but you can still have your required 13 and as many as 21. So you have to determine what to bid here. Okay, let me look at something. Okay. All right, the rules are, if you don't have the balanced hand and you have an opening hand, you bid a high 5-card major if you have 5-card major. If you have both 5-card majors, you bid the top one first. So if you have 5 hearts and 5 spades, you would bid 1 spade, if you've got at least 13 points. Okay, if you don't have a 5-card major, you bid the minor that has the most cards in it. Okay, so if you have 5 diamonds, you would bid 1 diamond. Okay, if you only have 4 diamonds and say 3 clubs, you would bid 1 diamond. Okay, so if you see what I'm saying there? You have to have a 5 cards in the major to open it, and if you don't have 5 cards, you have to look for another suit. You bid your longest minor. Once again, if they're both 5, you bid the top one first. If your longest minor only has 4 cards in it, bid that. If both of them have 4 cards, you bid diamonds, the higher one in this instance, okay? If both cards have 3, and there is a possibility that could be true, then you would bid 1 club. So when opening a major, you have to have 5. Write that down and circle it and put an exclamation point by it, all right? And to bid up one of a minor, you could have as few as 3, okay? You could also have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but you could have as few as 3. Now that's very important to be consistent with that, because if you sit here and I bid 1 diamond, now my partner's thinking, okay, my partner has an opening hand and may have as few as 4 diamonds, right? Possible. Did everybody follow that? Okay.
Would you also assume no 5-card major?
You definitely assume a 5-card major because we have a 5-card major bidding. So if your partner opens a minor suit, you have, by default, no 5-card major, because otherwise you would open a 5-card major. Okay? Any questions on that?
Perhaps you have 2 5-card majors.
If you have 2 5-card majors, you open the higher of the 2.
The higher one.
Yes. Okay? All right, so let's look at these hands here. Let me get oriented here. How do we do? 650. We're doing pretty good. All right, let's look at these hands and evaluate them and determine what you would bid. And I just want you to take the information that I just gave you and tell me. So what do you do first? This is hand 1 right here. Okay, how many points do you have?
6.
16.
7, 9, 12, 16 points. Is it balanced?
Yes.
One no trump.
One no trump. Okay. That's very good. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Got too many sixes here now.
Missing 7.
Okay.
You did well, I can still be.
Okay, what do you bid with that one?
Still balanced.
Still balanced, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one no trump? We have the right number of cards here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, you don't have a 5-card major? Okay, and so you bid your longest minor at the 1 level, right? Okay. All these bids that we're talking about now will be at the 1 level. Okay, you don't open anything 2 at this point. All right, how about this hand right here?
One space.
You open the spade.
How many points you have?
Spade, 14.
14, okay, plus, you know, you can add one there, so you've got an opening hand, clearly, and it doesn't fit the 1 no trump.
Yeah,
15.
15.
Two long.
15 plus
Two
2 long,
districts.
17, but it's not balanced, so you
Two,
open
14
yourself.
points.
Right. 14, 2 district.
Got
So you have an opening hand,
You're right.
it's 16 points, but it doesn't fit the parameters for 1 no trump. So you open your 5-card major, but you have 2, so which one do you open? Spade, correct. One spade.
Because you're not denying.
No, you're not denying the hearts. Later on, you might get the hearts. Okay? So let's say you have, and excuse me if I have right numbers twice, I'll just use X's here. Okay, now what do you have?
Balance.
How many points?
So one spade.
15 points.
No, 50.
One spade.
So what do you open with this?
Club.
Everybody say 1 club? Anybody say 1 spade?
No.
Why not?
You don't have
Why not 1 no trump?
This is not balanced.
Does that make
Say
sense?
it again.
Okay. You open this 1 club, okay? You look at your hand, I have enough points to open, so I have to open something, all right? You don't have a 5-card major, so hearts and spades are out. Can't mention them, because if you do, you're lying to your partner. You're saying, partner, I've got 5 spades. You don't have 5 spades, so you don't get a spade, okay? Do you have a balanced hand?
No.
Okay, you're in the point range, but you don't have a balanced hand, so 1 no trump's out. That leaves us clubs or diamonds. Which do you pick? Why? You got 4 of them. Right, okay. Does that all make sense? Okay. Let's try a couple more here, see what we come up with. What do you open with that hand?
Pass.
Pass. Exactly.
That looks like my hands.
Okay, any questions on any of that? I went through that very, very quickly. That's chapters 1 and most of chapter 2 in the book.
Okay.
Did I lose anybody? Yes.
I just have a question. When you
Yes.
say, if you're going to bid, if you have 2 5-card majors, and you say you bid the highest, are you talking about a spade, or are you talking about whichever has the higher count?
No, good question. If you have 2 5-card majors, the high cards are less relevant in determining what you bid. You're looking more at the length of the suit. You look at the distribution first, not the one that has all the high cards in it, although it's nice that it has high cards. So, let me just give you an example. That was an excellent question. And this is extreme.
It happens all the time. It's getting crazy.
Okay, so I have enough points here.
Yes.
All right, so you've got a hand that you can open, right? You've got 12 high card points, and you've got 13 high card points.
And 2 boosters.
Correct. So you're going to open this hand, right? What do you open that hand?
One spade.
One spade. You've got 5 spades and 5 hearts. Even though the hearts are vastly superior, you open one spade. You can later show your hearts if it's appropriate in the bid.
Why is that, Steve?
Because, real quickly, if you bid one spade and your partner bids, let's say, 2 diamonds, okay? Now you can bid your hearts at the 2 level. Okay? You see that? One spade, your partner bids 2 diamonds, and now you want to show your hearts, you can bid them at the 2 level. Okay, if you do it the other way around, 1 heart. I didn't do that right.
Wasn't it more bid?
Keep going.
Your partner can take a preference to your first suit at the 2 level. That's why it's important. You did it right.
Okay. Do you understand that? Okay.
No,
Also,
you
too,
could bid 2 hearts
isn't
and
it
majors.
traditionally that if you opened a heart, you'd be in effect denying you had 5 spades? But if you open spades, you're not denying you have 5 hearts.
That's true. I mean, but you have to really be rigid with following your procedures now. Okay, that's a good point.
yeah.
All right.
Most likely if your partner is weak, he's going to go back to 1 no trump, at which point you can bid 2 hearts and you can choose heart or
You
spade.
could do that, that's correct. Okay? All right, like I say, we've covered practically the first 60 pages in this book. In this length of time, did we skim over anything too quickly? Yes?
On that example,
This one?
if you bid 1 heart, I get that you're denying that you have 5 spades.
No.
But if you bid 1 heart, then if your partner's strong in spades, they can bid 1 spade.
Right.
And that gives you more information than if you bid 1 spade, they have to go to 2.
Well, if you bid spades first, and let's say if he has spades, he's going to support your spades. And you found your fit, it's called, right? If he doesn't, then you can rebid your hearts, and then he can choose between hearts or spades at the 2 levels. He can show his preference there. You'll get the opportunity to show both if it's
Okay,
necessary.
if I open 1 heart,
Yes. With
and
this?
yeah, and my partner came back with 1 spade,
Yes.
how many spades does he need?
4. That's responding. We'll get to that later. He needs 4. The responder needs 4 to bid the suit. A bid a new suit. Okay? All right, so let's